Everyone sitting here in this room has had some or the other sort of pain. But what makes that pain your fuel is how you're going to use it. Comfort, I think, is a very dangerous drug. The minute you get a sharp no, that's the fuel, that's the fire.
I lost the bravery to take risks, the courage to challenge the norms, the freedom to think outside the box. This is the problem, because our environments shape us.
That strong will to not let anyone else decide my destiny. I don't want it to be at the mercy of someone's approval, because I've been there in that waiting room for too long. That is probably one of the best things that I did. Not wait for someone to give me the permission to be seen.
Yeah.
And creating that path for myself and for so many others in the process.
Welcome, Urmila. It's good to have you on Entrepreneur Stories.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. You were here a couple of months ago for one of our episodes in the audience, and at that time you gave me this book.
Yeah.
And I think I've said to you since that I'm not a big reader.
Yes.
And it took me a while to get started, but once I picked up the book and started, it really grabbed me.
Amazing.
It really, really grabbed me. So can you tell us why you wrote this book and what it's about?
I'm so happy that you chose to continue with the book. So that's a good sign. On that note, Color Coded is actually a creative nonfiction, and it's on 3 themes that I think broke me and rebuilt me. So it's on themes of identity, creativity, and representation. And it takes the reader on a very active reading experience. It takes them from unlearning the stereotypes and conditioning that hold them back, unraveling who they are beyond all the boxes they're expected to fit in, and rebuilding a life that feels authentic to them in spirit and pace. And I think why I wrote the book that I wished existed when I was going through the experiences that I did.
Mm.
And what started as a personal journey of turning my pain into something bigger than my pain, I think has transcended into this beautiful ripple effect that has reached so many people in the ways it has. And I'm so grateful that it has.
It's a beautifully written story that goes through your life
Mm-hmm.
and then goes through the reflections that you have on the experiences that you've lived, if I can put it that way.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, you grew up in India.
Yeah.
In what sounded like a very traditional Indian family.
Yeah.
And that comes with certain expectations, guardrails, I want to say rules in inverted commas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would that be accurate?
I think when you say traditional, it's pretty relative.
Yeah.
And it's very subjective as well.
Yeah.
So it depends on what lens are you wearing it while calling it traditional. For me, it did feel traditional to an extent. And they did have a certain set of expectations that I think many readers have also resonated with. But I also understand where they're coming from because it's ideally a product of their conditioning and their conditions. So I think I wouldn't put that plaster effect saying that, oh, they were just traditional. They were not just traditional.
Yeah.
But it had a rhyme and reason behind it, which I think now I understand as an adult.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting as you move through life and you look back and how your perceptions of the situations that you lived and went through change.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that comes through in the book. Can you just talk a little bit about the expectations that you felt early on? I think in the book you talk about things like the career path you were expected to go on, the fact you were expected to, not stick your head up, play safe.
Oh, yes.
Maybe just give us a little bit of color about those sort of expectations, because I think it's important that we kind of set the stage.
Yeah. So I think both the things, like the career paths that were expected of me, were definitely with the conditioning that, it all banked on two parameters, security and stability. I think many in the room here will also relate to that. Security and stability is definitely where they're coming from. Qualifications is, of course, of utmost importance. And, you do this and then you can, have your thing. You clear this level and then you can do whatever you like. But that whatever you like is like an ongoing level. It's like a game that you can never win. It just keeps going on and on. And as
So
for
expectations at every step, sort of
expectations, yes. And it keeps morphing into different conditions. Like in the beginning, it's like, get your grades right. So, if I was an A+ student throughout, but then after that, then it's like, what choice of path do you want to take? Even that. So it's like, there is no end to it.
Yeah.
And I also get it. Like, it's not something that they did it out of malice. They have the best of intentions, but the best of intentions is as per their definition of how they have been brought up. As for sticking out my neck and being told to, like, not do so, I think I've always been that why kid. Like, why not? Why this? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? So I think I mentioned this in the book as well. Like, my mom has literally said that, if you were a cow, life would have been so much easier for you, because cow is kind of synonymous to something docile, something submissive, but I'm anything but that. So I think my mom is like that peacemaker trying to maintain the fragile, strings of peace, even the house, probably wherever I'm outside school, all of that. But also I think she was also someone who, I think I like that about her a lot, that she wouldn't agree with me on certain things, but she wouldn't dissuade me from that. There's a difference. And I think it took a lot of her to do that, which I really respect.
Yeah.
So
I think it's interesting because I'm not sure that everyone has the context that in certain cultures, when you live and you're born into that culture, there are certain expectations about the path you're going to take in life.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. And like you said, it's you go to school, you get the grades, you do what your teachers tell you.
Yeah.
And then it becomes, lawyer, doctor, teacher, accountant, get a stable job, bring home a stable paycheck, get married, have kids. And this is the path that I think is expected of people.
Yeah.
I think it's changing.
It is.
I think that as people see the world through social media, TV, other things, as people travel, it's opened up. But I certainly, early in my life, I think those were the expectations for me.
Yeah.
I think they changed after my mother moved to Hong Kong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I do think that without that context, I think it's hard for people to really understand where it came from for you.
Yeah.
And I can see that you all your life were questioning why.
Yes.
As I read the book.
Yes.
Yeah. Where do you think that came from? Because I kind of think about it in terms of we people talk about nurture and nature, right? And nurture, you expect that you're going to develop in a certain way because of the way you've been brought up.
Right.
But your nature was obviously different.
Absolutely. And sometimes I wonder that myself, because I think it's a mix of my closest circle. For example, my mom and dad. So my dad is pretty traditional as compared to my mom. And I think she did give me the liberty to think the way I did think. And I think it's also the exposure to the kind of television you watch or the programs you watch. I think but then there was one side that was telling me that, you have to follow this path. And she also agreed with the same. But I think she did not discourage the thinking aspect of me, like the why. She never discouraged that part. I think so that's what it stayed on. And sometimes it's also rebellion. I think rebellion can be a very good fuel. So a lot of the whys are also fueled by rebelling against the norm. So I think that's probably where all the why has stemmed from and has stayed throughout, I think.
Yeah.
Which has helped me as well.
Yeah. What did you learn about yourself writing this book?
I learned that resilience is my strongest muscle. And just like any muscle, the more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. And I feel that in hindsight, I'm very grateful for the experiences that actually made me the resilient version that I am today. So writing this book definitely taught me that.
I think one of the things that jumped out at me was, and maybe because it resonated with me, was there's a tremendous power in authentic storytelling.
Absolutely.
And this is so authentic. It's authentically you.
Yeah.
And you know, we're here having this discussion on a podcast called Entrepreneur Stories because that's what we want to lean into is authentic stories. Did it help you being comfortable in your skin and in yourself more, putting your experiences down in writing?
I think that's how I process life.
Okay.
You know, I'm an artist. I'm a very creative person. I document my life. I share it because I feel that's the only way to know what life is throwing at you. Otherwise, you're just passing through life. But when you share it, when you document it, I think it adds so much perspective to your journey. And while writing this book, I made sure that because I've been in the position where I was on the sidelines, watching people do what I wanted to do and wondering how they've done it. So I decided that when I was going to do something of my own, like build a book from scratch, I will share every aspect of it so that when someone watches my journey, they have this feeling that if she can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to be a very non-curated, a very raw and visceral sharing of the experience because it's not a smooth journey. And I didn't want to be like, oh, this is the beginning and here I am with the result. There is that messy middle which people need to see. They need to experience. They need to live it through someone and then they need to resonate with and then derive power when you see the actual product out in the world.
Yeah.
I think that's a journey that's worth living. And that's a journey worth seeing as well for someone else.
You're very public, right? You're very public. And I'm curious, is there a reason to be so public? Does that help you? Or is it about trying to help other people?
I think it's both because being public is something that comes naturally to me. And the intent behind this, again, like I mentioned, sharing the experience. And I also, if I think beyond me, it's about making people who are on similar journey feel seen. Because when you see someone doing something out of their comfort zone, out of the norm, out of something that they're not cut out for, or they've not planned for, or it's ambiguous, you don't know, I think there is a strange ripple effect of resonance because everyone is going through that journey in some or the other context. And there is some collective power that can come from these experiences that are shared. So, you know, you watch a podcast, you feel inspired hearing someone else's story, and you feel that, okay, this is what I'm going to try in my life. That's how powerful it is. So if I think of me, it's definitely how I am as a person. And if I think for the, you know, something beyond me, it's definitely also for people to join in on journeys and feel seen.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think that there's a lot of entrepreneurs who listen to this podcast, and I think that there's so many entrepreneurs trying to build in public today.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy being public, and it's really not easy at the beginning. It's really hard at the beginning.
Yeah.
To be so open, to be so transparent, to be so vulnerable.
Yeah.
I also think, and I wonder what your perspective on this is, that sometimes the fire to do these things comes from some sort of pain or pushing back against the rules.
Yeah.
You know, for me, part of the thing was I couldn't do what I wanted to do in corporate. So I thought, well, I'll just go do it myself.
Yeah.
If I can't do it here, then I'll do it myself.
Exactly.
And I kind of got, when I was reading Color Coded, I kind of felt that's what I took away from, one of the big things I took away from your book.
Yeah.
was that you were pushing back against the rules and saying, right, I'm
Yeah.
going to do this my way.
Mm.
And you use that phrase.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not going to give me a chance, a spot, I'm going to create that chance
Yeah.
for myself.
Yeah. You talk a lot about starting with pain. You've mentioned that to me.
Mm.
What does that mean to you?
I think when everyone sitting here in this room has had some or the other sort of pain.
Yeah.
But what makes that pain your fuel is how you're going to use it. You can be the victim in your story and pass through life with that perspective. Or you can flip that on the head and be the victor in your story.
Mm-hmm.
And I, for one, am always in the pursuit of being the victor in my story, because I feel there is this strange agency that you have. When you realize that you have that agency, it starts to become less scary, because you know that if you have done this, you can probably try that next difficult thing that you're on to. So every time you do something that is out of your comfort zone, something that is way beyond you, that if you have transcended some kind of pain, I think that really gives you that fuel to try the next difficult thing that you're on to.
Yeah.
And for me, with this book, it was literally turning my pain into my purpose, which I think was a beautiful ripple effect.
Yeah. I love the phrase ripple effect. It's actually come up in the last podcast as well. It's funny that you mentioned that, because it's something that stuck with me from the last podcast. One of the things that I found really interesting was that in the early stages of your life, you talked about how much you love to play, how much you love to create, how much you love to just, you created little worlds for yourself.
Yes.
And then as you moved through life, that all kind of went away for a little while. And I think that as we get older, sometimes we lose that freedom to explore and to play.
Yeah.
One of the things I took away from your book is that you seem to have found that again in your life.
I think I still haven't reached the level that I had when I was a kid. Like, I was probably one of the most imaginative kids I knew, I think, because I was a single child and a hyper imaginative child. And I was never bored, which I think, kind of is an example of how creative I was when I was a kid. Then as life, happens and everything, that creativity is kind of snipped and pruned depending on your education system, your family, your surroundings, the fears that are instilled in you, the fears that come your way. And then I think there's a ceiling point you reach, after which you feel that you can't afford to let go such a beautiful part of you. And then it's a slow journey back to your creativity, back to you being, the play side of yourself, coming back to it. It's a very slow journey, but I think it needs to be a consistent one, because I still don't think I'm as imaginative as I was when I was a kid. But I know that I have found ways and means through my creative workshops, through my art, through my creative journaling, to go back to there slowly and steadily.
Yeah, it feels like you're on a journey.
Yes.
Back to that. Were you scared about the reactions you would get when you finally finished the book and decided to click publish?
Oh gosh, you're taking me back. So when I started writing this book, I was at a point in my life where I felt that I had nothing to lose. Nothing. And I think fear is a very relative emotion. And when I started writing, I felt that this is it. It can't get worse than this. And I'm also a very sensitive person, super sensitive person. So
to feedback?
No, in general, I'm a very sensitive person. Like, I experience emotions quite loudly. And feedback, anything. It could be even watching someone on the street going through something. Like, I will see that, I will feel it. So I am very aware that I cannot afford to be affected by any and every person or their viewpoint or their feedback or their opinion. So I've kept my circle of interference really small. It's just my parents and my husband. And I think they're a good mix. They keep me grounded enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, keeping it small, keeping in mind what matters has really helped in processing things the way I would want to. So I think I didn't really, the fear didn't really go away. but it stopped having influence on my actions.
Yeah, it never goes away, does it?
It never goes
It
away.
never goes away. It's
Never.
just, you just manage it.
Yeah.
You just manage it. And I
Yeah.
think that any of us who are on a journey, whether it's improvement or trying to build something in a business,
Yeah.
I feel like growth happens on the other side of the fear.
Fear. Yes. Yes.
You know, and we've kind of you kind of mentioned it earlier that as you go through the levels, the last level seems easy, but the next one's the one that you're scared of.
Yes.
And I heard a phrase the other day that I've kind of clocked away in my head, that at every level there's a new devil.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
And you've got to you got to deal with each devil as you go.
Yeah.
But as you go, and you mentioned it this morning, that when you in your LinkedIn post, when you look back, you almost don't recognize yourself.
No. Yeah.
So maybe tell us a little bit about what inspired that post this morning. Because you said you read the book again.
Yes, I did.
And when did you publish it?
I published it November 18th, 2025.
Okay, so not that long ago.
Not that long ago. And I do have decent memory, but
Yeah.
I'm not the same person who wrote this book. Because even though it's like 6 months back, I feel I was a completely different person then. I'm a completely different person now. So I knew when we were doing this podcast, we would be speaking in depth about the book. And I had to jog my memory back, to see why I said certain things, what I meant, why did I say it. And because maybe I think it's very important as well. Like when you create something, it's very important for you to detach from it once it's outside in the world. Because that really helps you move on to the next level. Like, that's a different kind of growth. Because now this book is no longer mine. It belongs to my readers, those who have adopted it, those who have lived it, those who have enjoyed it, those who have spoken about it. So it's got nothing to do with me anymore. And I think I am a totally different person than who wrote the book. And I think it's good in a way, because that means you're still evolving. You're still changing. And I think I would always love to be a work in progress than a finished product. So
yeah, I love that. That we're to stay a work in progress and never think of yourself as a finished product, I think is a great frame for life.
Yeah.
But the other thing you said that and the dates that you gave, this was published in November 2025.
Yeah.
And less than 6 months later, you're saying you don't recognize the person who wrote this book.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting way to sort of look at growth, that in 6 months you can be completely reinvent yourself almost.
Absolutely. I think it's those consistent, like even if you take any habit, if you consistently do something for even 10 minutes a day, in 6 months, that effect compounds a lot. So I think it's the same thing with growth. Like I don't carry the same fears I did when I was getting the book out, because I've seen the way it's related to people. And that's led me to having a different mindset and a different lens to view the same fears that I had. So again, it's an evolving thing. And I think that's the reason I felt that I need to reread it again to see, for this conversation particularly.
Yeah. What do you think drove Color Coded to be an Amazon #1 bestseller?
I think it's definitely got to do with authenticity, absolute honesty. Because I think when I was I was writing this book, I think writing the book, let me tell you, is the easiest part of the entire journey. It's once you write the book, getting it out there and having real people actually get the book, read the book, make it their own, write reviews that feel like love letters to the book. That is something that has to happen organically. Because I could not figure out Amazon paid ads or paid PR. I bootstrapped this book. So for me, I think a big tip that I would want to really share here is don't lean into something that is not you. Because a lot of, fellow authors who had their book out and, all the coaches and everything that exist, they all mention that you should do Amazon paid ads, do this platform, do that platform. And I knew that was not me. That was overwhelming me to no end and actually paralyzing me. So I'm so glad that I stuck to my stubbornness and leaned into something that works best for me. I think for me, sharing my journey and sharing my feelings comes very naturally to me. And I'm so glad that I did that, because that kind of built an audience. Now that I look back, while doing it, of course, I had no clue. Let me give you the disclaimer, no clue. But now that I look back, I think sharing that experience is so, I'm an artist, and I was sharing through my sketches how that journey is, and, all the ups and downs. So I think that really stuck onto people, and people got invested in the product right from the get-go. So when it was out, it was like they are already invested in that book, because it's something that they have witnessed and they have been with me as I was building it. So I don't think any PR or any marketing or any paid strategy can replace that organic connection that people feel. And when they feel part of it, I think they're invested in. So I think I told people to buy my book probably just in November. After that, I have never said that. I have never said that, buy my book. It's been an organic thing that they have wanted to find out for themselves, experience for themselves, and then they've been so lovely. They've recommended to their friends and family as well. So I think that's what really helped the book, and helped me also, because I felt when I started that nobody would even care about this book. Would anyone even understand where I'm coming from? Would anyone even resonate? But I still remember my book launch in Bookazine, I think 21st of January. We sold out twice.
Okay. Amazing.
It was 50 people in the room.
Yeah.
Different age groups, different skin colors, different backgrounds, all in one room, because they found something that they could relate to. And that was a beautiful memory that I'll always remember whenever I have doubts or any imposter syndrome popping up, is like, if that can happen, the next thing will also happen.
You have kind of coined this phrase, the misfit advantage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you speak a little bit about that, and where that kind of came from, and why you maybe saw yourself as a misfit?
Mm-hmm. I have felt like a misfit for different reasons, for different seasons of my life, actually. So even as a kid, as a teenager, as an adult, even as a working professional. So that feeling has been constant, but the reason could be, different. And for the longest time, I used to feel that I need to change myself. So
to fit in.
Yeah, to fit in. So, if I would feel like a misfit, I was like, oh, probably I need to speak in a certain way. I need to be probably more qualified. I need to be more confident. Billion reasons. And it actually reached a point where I felt that there has to be a limit to this. And I felt that, what if the misfit is not the problem, but a feedback about the system? Because I think that's the time when I started thinking that a misfit is just a signal that something in the system is not working, or they haven't accommodated for. So rather than asking what's wrong with me, I flipped that question on the head and asked, what is my difference helping me see? And I think that's the time when I said that I'm going to call it the misfit advantage, because every one of us sitting here has felt like a misfit for one reason or the other. And that difference is your strength. We are conditioned to feel like, that is a shortcoming. But if you start seeing it as your strength, it'll take you to rooms where you're accepted for who you are and appreciated and celebrated for who you are. You will find your people.
Yeah.
And I feel a misfit is only a misfit until they find their people. Because once you find your people, it feels like you're part of a movement. And it becomes less about fitting in, but more about belonging.
See, I think that's why this book reached #1 as the Amazon bestseller. Because I think deep down, all of us, no matter what we read or whatever content we consume, if you can see yourself in the story that you're digesting,
right,
that resonates and it becomes relatable.
Yeah.
And that's what I found with this book. You talked about going into schools in Hong Kong where you were not welcome. And I thought about my corporate career and rooms that I was in where I felt my opinion was not respected.
Right.
So it was different, but the emotions were the same.
Same, yeah.
And I think that's why this book has resonated with so many people, and why it resonated with me. One thing I did want to ask you is, it seems like the structure, and maybe you can talk a little bit about the structure rather than me, but
Yeah.
it seems like it was very deliberate,
Mm.
and it is a little bit different from
Yeah.
most books that you would pick up.
Right.
And
So
so maybe
this,
why you did it as well.
the structure was definitely very intentional. So for those of you who don't know, the book is structured like there's a story or there's an experience, and then there is reflection, and then there is a prompt. So I did this because that's how I experience life.
Mm.
When something happens to me, I, of course, experience it and then reflect on it. Because when you reflect on something, there is that percolation that happens. And when you let that happen, there is that beautiful petrichor of perspective, which makes your life so much richer. And I wanted to make that space for the reader as well in the book. So they're not like a consumer, but they become a participant of the book. And it becomes an active reading experience where they read a chapter, they go through my reflections of it, and then there's a prompt for the reader, and then there's space for them also to reflect on their part of their journey, which is, relevant to the the chapter that I've spoken about. So it's an active reading experience. And that's why the tagline says color-coded, finding yourselves and your stories.
Yeah.
So I wanted my reader also to find their story by the end of this book. So it was an intentional choice to make that as a structure.
I found it interesting that as I read the stories of your early life in India, at home, moving to university, moving then to Hong Kong, and all the experiences that you've had here, what I was thinking that you were saying through your story was different to what your ultimate reflections were in a way.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's because, and maybe you can comment on this, that your reflections change over time.
Yeah.
And by the time you got to writing this book, the way that you reflected on those experiences were kind of different to the way that you originally, you described the way you felt at the time.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Because when you're going through it, you don't know what hits you. It's coming at you. It's strong. You're also in the moment. You're reacting. You're feeling a lot of things. You're emotional. And then when I do reflect on those experiences while I was writing, so I had to revisit all those experiences again, there is a different perspective that you have when you are not in the moment, when you're a little away from that situation, probably a few years away, a few months away. There is that gap that gives you the space to actually see what that experience was for what it is and what you actually, experience it in the moment. So I think that's the reason why I wanted to add the reflections. And I think I have done it very intentionally to redeem every character in the book, including Hong Kong. So Hong Kong is also a character in the book. So I think Hong Kong also gets a redemption in the reflections because I want to do that because it has changed. Like when I read it, I think yesterday for this podcast, when I reread it rather, I did see some of those reflections also change because I think you're constantly experiencing life in different ways and aspects. And I think that's the beauty of the journey because it keeps changing. The scenarios keep changing. Your thoughts about it keep changing. So I think, Yeah,
I think you can only connect the dots with hindsight.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
At the time, everything can feel quite overwhelming, quite difficult. And emotions in the moment change over time. How do you deal with rejection today? There's a lot in the book about trying to do something or get somewhere and not being able to. And I think that a lot of us face this in our lives every day, whether we're entrepreneurs, whether we're in our corporate career, with whatever we're trying to do. We all have goals and aspirations and they don't come easily. So how do you deal with that today and how's that changed over time?
I think before, when I would face rejection, I would immediately think that something is wrong with me. Like there's something missing in me. Like I need to do something differently. I need to try harder. But I think after this book, after these past 6 months, I would say I see rejection very differently. Now, when I enter a room or probably a conversation, which is tending towards rejection, I think I see it very practically. I feel that, okay, this is not for me. Maybe this is not the right room for me. Maybe it's time for me to, change rooms, find a different room,
Build
or
your
probably
own.
build your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's something that I feel so strongly about now, that it's no longer a me problem. It's a them problem. It's something that is not working out, and it's nobody's fault. And we can always find other places where things could work out. So I think it's really changed the way I take rejection now. And I have to say, it does help.
I think growth should feel uncomfortable. And if you're not getting no as an answer, then I don't think you're pushing hard enough sometimes.
Absolutely.
If you're striving for growth.
Yeah.
And I think
has to feel uncomfortable.
yeah, and I think that frame has helped me a lot.
Yeah.
That if I'm not getting no, then I'm not pushing myself hard enough. And I'm not learning, because you can learn a lot more from no than from yes sometimes.
Absolutely. Because I don't think when everything is very conducive, I think you're very comfortable. I think comfort, is a very dangerous drug. And you don't even know it. You don't even know it, because you are so used to the yeses and the conducive environments that you become soft.
Yeah.
But the minute you get a sharp no, that's the fuel, that's the fire you need to, burn brighter and spread your light around and, be the best version, I feel, or an evolving version for that matter.
There's a couple of reflections I'd love to jump into with you. So one of them is, I can trace the shift to a series of quiet surrenders. This quote resonated with me, but what did it mean to you?
I think it's something that I would say right from childhood. I think for all of us sitting here, it can be like, it's never an overnight change. It's not that you surrender, and then the next morning you're a different person. No, it's like this slow burn editing process. Like, it can look like choosing comfort over curiosity, acceptance over questioning. It can be as subtle as you not showing up fully, you not putting up your hand in the meeting because you're scared of how you're being perceived. So it can be these small snippets, snips here and there that you do, that you edit yourself to fit in. And then it reaches a point and time where you don't even realize who is the real you. And I think that can be such a heartbreaking feeling, because you don't really recognize yourself anymore, because you've kind of molded and morphed yourself to fit in the rooms. And I think when it changes from the behavioral level and hits the identity level, I feel that's the most dangerous part of this whole process. Because when you lose your identity, it's never overnight. You literally drift in that direction.
Yeah.
And before you go, you've gone too far.
And it's the environment you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the book, which of the environments did you find this happening to yourself in?
The losing of identity part?
Yeah.
I think I would say the work environment.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because at home, of course, I've been very stuck to my identity.
Yeah.
And I think the people around me have been gracious enough to accept me for that. And we've agreed to disagree. But I think in the workspace, yes. In other spaces, like when you go for networking events and all of these spaces, where there is a goal attached to the communication, a lot of these situations, or when you're trying to start something of your own, I think these are the places where it can start, triggering you in that direction. And you have to be self-aware enough to know that it's happening.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you want something so badly that you don't mind, shape-shifting a little bit. But it has to be a very conscious call of how much of that you're doing before it's too late.
See, I think this happens to so many people. I think this happens in corporate careers. I think this happens in all kinds of different environments where you start to conform without questioning.
Exactly.
Because you want to fit in.
Yeah.
It might be the promotion you're looking for. It might be just because you want that recognition from the boss and you feel like that's what they want from you.
Yeah.
And conforming without questioning, I think, is very, very dangerous. But I love the way you framed it up about when it becomes your identity
Yeah.
and starts to impact your identity. Because I certainly saw this in myself in my corporate career.
Okay.
And I think, again, it goes back to when you read or when you can someone's story or you hear a podcast, if you can relate it back to the situation you were in, then it really starts to become, it impacts you. You feel it.
Yeah.
I lost the bravery to take risks, the courage to challenge the norms, the freedom to think outside the box. This is the problem.
Yeah.
Right? Because our environments shape us.
And I think that need to be liked and accepted is something that is also conditioned in you. Look at how how the parents talk to their children, like, sit like this. So there is, I think, very early on, depending on the rooms we've been part of, we very early on find which parts of us are acceptable and which parts are not. And we've all been parts of different systems. And each system will reward a certain kind of behavior. And we learn that so effortlessly and so silently, and I think so submissively as well.
Yeah.
Because you want to be part of the system. Like, who wants to be someone who's sticking their neck out all the time? I don't want that kind of mental drama. But I think there's a cost to it.
Yeah.
There's a cost.
One thing that sort of jumped out at me is that sometimes there's this feeling of guilt of wanting more. That when you're in these situations, this idea that I want more, suddenly you kind of feel a bit guilty about it. And I think that that's also dangerous.
Yeah.
And I think that in entrepreneurship, we kind of face this a lot. You have to take control of your own journey and your own destiny. And I think that's one of the things that really, really jumped out at me. The other thing I wanted to ask you, you wrote in this book, joy is not the opposite of work. What did that mean to you? Because that's another thing that really jumped out at me.
I think it's also to do with how a lot of us are brought up. Like, when there is that clear demarcation between doing something for joy and something serious. And we go for like a long part of our life thinking that the two are supposed to be like these disjoint subsets. Like, one is the serious job that you do to earn money and, the stability and all of that things, the responsibility. And joy is something what you do in your pastime, like, it's in your free time. When you finish your work, then you can do something. But we are never taught or we are never exposed to the fact that the two can intersect. There can be professions and journeys and seasons in your life when the two can also intersect, or you can find those pockets in your work as well. And it doesn't have to be the strict demarcation that joy is frivolous and work is, serious and accepted and all that. So I think that's what I meant. And it starts right from your childhood. Like, if you all sitting here can reflect a little bit, like, think of what your parents said, like, finish your work and then you can go to play. So there is that clear demarcation between what you're supposed to do and what you can do. But that is subject to condition. And that condition goes on throughout your life, that level keeps leveling up. Like, finish this, then you can do this. Get a job, then you can do whatever you want. And then it just keeps leveling up all the time. So I think there is that dichotomy, which we should, I think about a little more.
And ultimately, you ended up becoming a teacher.
That's the irony of the whole thing. Okay.
My guess is you're not the traditional teachers you don't teach the same way as the traditional teachers that taught you when you were young.
Yeah.
Maybe speak a little bit about that.
Okay, I have to give a bit of context. So I have spoken with great disdain about the traditional career roles like doctor, engineer, teacher. And I did end up becoming a teacher. And that's been possibly my longest and stable stint, I would say. I have taught all age groups from kindergarten to working professionals. But just like anything in my life, I've always tried to be the person I wish I had, like be the teacher I wish I had, write the book I wish I could have read when I was going through. So I think you're very right with teaching also, it was similar. I despised the system, despised the admin work, of course, and all the structure and the system that comes with the profession of teaching. But I think the most rewarding and priceless part of that profession has to be the classroom experience. Because when you can be that person who makes a student feel seen, I think that's a privilege. And I've had the privilege and honor to be that person for so many of my students, be it kindergarten, working professionals, or university students. Because once someone feels seen, it changes the way they see themselves.
Mm.
And I have seen it. I have experienced it. I've been part of so many journeys. And even now, like recently, I had a session at CUHK on identity and voice. And I had put up pictures of that session. And I had my students from 10 years, 10, 15 years back, commenting on the post, oh, ma'am, you took us right back to, your classroom and we miss it so much. Then I have, they're getting married and everything. So it's like a long time ago. And university students, and then some of them are like, oh, I try your techniques that you had taught us, in my workshops, and it works so well. So I do think about you. You can't replace that feeling.
Yeah.
I'm okay with, being in a boring profession, because the return on that investment that I've had of my time there has been lifelong.
It's interesting because at one point in the book, you recount a story of a teacher in a staff room telling you your students love you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it obviously made a huge impact on you, because at that time, my feeling was that maybe you were not so confident that the impact you were having is the impact you wanted to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the power of recognition, of sort of reinforcement, and actually you being seen as well.
Yes, absolutely.
It's huge, and you kind of describe it as the impact that you're having on your students. But I think all of us feel like we need to be seen.
Absolutely.
But one of the other things that jumps out at me is that you talked about how important it is to see people doing the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
And there's a lot out there right now about representation and ensuring there is representation, so younger people coming up behind can see a path for themselves.
Yeah.
How's that been for you? Because you talk about it relative to Hong Kong a lot and being here.
Yeah. I think representation seems to be this lofty term that we speak in different contexts, but it boils down to something very simple. You can't be what you can't see. And for me, even now, when I look up probably a speaker lineup, or probably when I look at a company's team, if I don't see someone like me, I don't feel like I belong. Because when you see someone like you, that's a sign that, okay, I belong here. When you don't see anyone like you, you start questioning that feeling. Do I belong here? Should I even be here? Should I even go in that place or company or job or whatever that is? So I think seeing someone like you in what you want to do, I think really is something that we don't give enough importance to. And because the ripple effect of that thing is so important. A lot of people feel discouraged or feel unfit to do certain things because they don't see someone like them doing it. But the minute they see someone like them doing it, I think there's that hope that acts as a fuel that transcends any kind of limitations a person might feel. So I feel that it's a very important thing. It's a very noble thing. And I think we don't do it enough.
Yeah, it's so powerful, because I think that this is one of the reasons that we have this podcast and we call it Entrepreneur Stories, because when you hear the story of someone going through the challenges that you're going through, and you see that they've come out the other side, it gives you fuel.
Absolutely.
To keep going.
Yeah.
That you're not the only one who's experienced this or are experiencing this, and there's others out there doing it, and they're managing to get through it. So if they can do it, why can't I?
Exactly.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you one more question about the book. You started writing this presumably with a blank sheet of paper, and you went to self-publishing it.
Yeah.
Is there a reason you chose that path rather than going through the more traditional publishing house and doing it, the way other people were doing it?
I think two reasons. That strong will to not let anyone else decide my destiny. I don't want it to be at the mercy of someone's approval, because I've been there in that waiting room for too long. So if I were to wait for a publisher and the yes and the no and all of that, I don't even know if this book would be out in the open and reach so many people the way it did. I feel everyone, each of us sitting here, each of us, whoever's listening to this, you have the power to own your own story. And I think with this book, that has been a big reminder for me. And the second reason definitely is that there is a way in which you can work on your shortcomings and to your advantage. So I'm a very impatient person, and I use that to my advantage for this book. I was like, you can write a book for 5 years and still not be done. But I was like, okay, you're impatient. How can I use that? Finish this book. So I took 3 months to write this book, 3 months to hate it, and then 3 months to get it out. And it's out, and it's alive. It's living in other people's lives. And I think that is probably one of the best things that I did. Not wait for someone to give me the permission to be seen.
Yeah.
And creating that path for myself and for so many others in the process.
I love that.
That's
You
the
set
reason.
yourself a deadline, though, right? When you started this, you told me the other day you set yourself a deadline.
Yeah. So I think Jan 2025, I decided that this book is going to be the misogi of 2025. Like the one thing I'm going to achieve this year. And I'm so glad I stuck to it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think this would have come out if I would have delayed any further or waited for, someone to give me the chance to publish it. So yeah.
Yeah.
You have to decide.
Urmila, before we go to audience Q&A, what have we not talked about today that you think we should as it relates to color-coded?
I think we haven't talked about the cover, which I
Tell me
think
about
has
the
a very
cover.
meaning.
Tell me about the cover. We'll put it up there.
Because I'll tell you something, it's probably one of the most serendipitous things that has happened with this book. So this is a painting from a mixed media art series that I had created way back in 2020. Some of these pieces also made it to the Victoria Hall of Fame in London and different exhibitions for different reasons. But this particular painting, I made it to celebrate the color brown. Because I kind of, in Hong Kong, I kind of also noticed that brown is often associated with something lesser. Also, when you look at nature, brown is often associated with dirt, mud, something getting dirty. And I wanted to celebrate the color brown in all its beauty. So this is actually coffee.
Okay.
Actual coffee, like the Nescafe sachet. It's a coffee. It's acrylic paints and markers. If you smell the original painting, it still smells warm and toasty. And when I was looking for the cover of the book,
yeah,
I bootstrapped the whole thing. So I was not like I hired a designer and all of that. It was all me. So I was like, what can be the cover of this book? Like, how can this is my story, but I wanted it to be a personal thing. So I did try certain designers, but they gave me some AI generated generic stuff, which was so not me. So I was like, when I was going through my paintings, I was like, this is the painting I made to celebrate the color brown. And I don't think there is anything more fitting than this to be on the cover of the book. And I think that's how it landed on the cover. And I think a lot of people have really loved the cover of the book as well. And I'm glad it kind of worked out. So yeah, that's the story behind the cover of the book.
Amazing. Amazing. Why don't we go to audience Q&A?
Absolutely.
We've got a mic going around.
Hi. I just want to say thank you for being so open and sharing your life journey with us. And you share about your personal experiences and especially the painful parts. How do you manage the negative emotions that come along with it? I know you did discuss a little bit of that, like keeping your circle small with your parents.
Mm-hmm.
What else do you do to help you?
That's a lovely question. And I think many of us sitting here will also relate to that question. Thank you, Beth. I think you can't help it with the negative emotions, the imposter syndrome. That is going to be there. Even if I keep my circle, I have my head, which is sometimes not in my favor. So you have that as well. So that's a different battle. But I feel that if you can get to a level, either through stubbornness, either through grit, or just sheer impatience, to take actions despite those negative feelings, I think you've won in life. Because everyone is going to experience negative feelings one way or the other, one reason or the other. And I, for one, do have a lot of them. But I also know that I have to keep going despite that, because you can't stop it, you can't control it, you can't manipulate it. But having that acceptance that it's going to be there, but I'm also going to take action despite that, I think that's a win that you can look forward to.
So, I have a question is because I'm a music artist and a graphic artist here in Hong Kong. I've been trying to make music for like 3 years now, but I'm also in that constant state of position where like trying to find my voice out, my own identity, and I'm always struggling to find where I belong. Even for the last 3 years since I debuted, the only thing that kind of held me back were like a lot, because I grew up in a religious household, so I was taught to follow these virtues. How do you not let the vices get the best of you when you're pursuing thing in a creative mode? Like some people would say like, oh, try to work hard for it, but how do you not let, because every day whenever I see people that, when you mentioned they're doing people that you would that get to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
How do you not let the vices get the best of you? Like you don't grow resentment. How do you not grow envy in the process of doing all these things?
Oh, that's a lovely question. Thank you, Josh. Because I think there is something very beautiful that we can take from that feeling of envy. I think envy gets a very bad rep, but envy and all these negative feelings that you get, they're a very good indicator of what you really want, but you don't have it yet. So that's how I channelize my envy. Whenever I, look at someone doing some really amazing work, which I also want to do, I will have my moment of envy. I'm like, how's that person doing this and I haven't gotten this? Or where's that person getting this opportunity from? I get it. I do it. And then I'm like, okay, so this is a very good indicator of what I want to do. And after that moment of being human and being envious and resenting and probably cursing the person a little bit, I will kind of take a sharp pivot into which 2 clients can I send my proposal to? Because I feel we have to create that landing board for our opportunities if you are on that path of creating something for yourself. Because the wider we cast the net, the more chances there is for that opportunity to happen. So you have to make that happen for you. You can't be passive and also actively resenting people. You have to be active in both ways. So if you're actively resenting someone, take action despite that. Make sure that once you have that feeling of envy or something, you on the same day need to go and send that proposal to someone you want to work with, or give that cold call to someone you want to work with. And I think that's probably a way to balance out that negative feeling and using it for something positive.
And at the same time, is it also in a way I won't, or at the same time won't hate that same person I resent? Because sometimes the hardest thing about growing these things is because it's the people that I'm close with, like in the community, like it's my fellow DJ friends or my artist friends.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to hate them in the process.
Yeah.
But then because the fact that they're doing better than I do is like, it gives me more self-doubt in the process rather than I want to do it, but I felt like there's something still holding me back to saying, how can I still achieve this kind of momentum? But at the same time, it's already becoming too many things to consider.
Yeah. I think I will suggest 2 things. One, if you have the privilege of being in close proximity of someone who is doing something that you want to do, I think shadow work, see what they're doing differently. Like if I had someone who is also a speaker and is a good friend I get to hang out with, I will see how they work. What is it that they do? What is it that they try? What is it that they put out there that's working so well for them? So I think I kind of have learned this early on, that rather than competing, collaborating is the way to go. Like if you feel someone is your competition or someone's doing better than you, rather than being on the opposite side, join them, collaborate with them, because you have an audience overlap. And that's going to really help you amplify what you are doing. And the second thing that I would definitely say is that work on yourself so much that these external factors don't matter to you. When you look in the mirror and you like who you are or who you are showing up as, then these things stop having that kind of effect on you. It's a long journey, but it's best to get started as early as you can.
I think the key word there is action.
Absolutely. For anything, I guess.
I mean, everything you're looking for is on the other side of action, but it's going to take longer and it's going to be harder than you.
Yeah. I think speed is leverage.
Yeah.
Like the sooner you can take action, I think it's easier to get out of the situation. This thing. I think we have a question there, Kashish.
Oh, thank you, Urmila. That was a fantastic session. Reflecting on your journey so far, I know we've talked about this before. So what advice would you give your younger self? And now what advice would you give the future generation to come into their own and to be authentic in a space where it's highly difficult for the younger generation to really be themselves with the exposure of social media and all of that?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a lovely question. Thank you, Kashish. I think two things that you asked me. One is, what advice do I have for my younger self? I would like to tell little Urmila that she is enough and that she doesn't have to be on this hamster wheel of trying to do better every time for the wrong reasons. And that she doesn't have to strive so hard to fit in, because she's not born to fit in. She's born to stand out. So that's something I would tell little Urmila. As for the future generation, I do work with a lot of students, university students, school students. What I see differently about them is the amount of exposure that they have. And I think that is a two-way thing. One, it could make them really question who they are, whether they can show up authentically. They're worried about their peers. But on the other hand, they also have the leverage of exposure, like the opportunities that are available for them and the kind of parents that they have. Like, I'm sure your two kids are super lucky to have someone like you who is so, in tune to their interest, in tune to their potential. I think that's a leverage that the future generation has. So what advice I would have for them is to never lose sight of who they are and always have their priority list sorted out. Like, they need to know what is their top 3 priorities and their non-negotiables. The earlier they find that, the longer they will go in the journey.
I think the biggest challenge you have is the expectations of others.
Yeah.
You know, because when you say that you would tell little Urmila that you're enough.
Yeah.
I also feel like we have to keep pushing ourselves and not be happy that we're enough.
Yeah. But for the right reasons.
Yeah, but it hits differently when you're doing that for yourself and not to live up to someone else's expectations.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think the challenge comes when you're trying to live up to someone else's expectations and then you're on that hamster wheel and you can't seem to get off it. But when you're doing it for yourself, I think it hits completely differently.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I have this line that I've written in the book that I use as a reminder for myself as well, that I would rather die in the battlefield of my dreams than be in the comfort of someone else's expectations.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful.
So I think
it's beautiful.
Thank you, Urmila. It was, I love your choice of words. I love what a lexicon you are. And, and it's also inspiring. Want to tap into this topic of surrender that you mentioned. Could you elaborate more on that? Because as a yoga therapist, we have this concept and it's called the flip. And I feel like you tune into that quite a bit. For example, when you were explaining to Josh about envy and how he could use that, flip it around, to use that to his advantage. And I mean, the whole concept of being a misfit and using that to our advantage.
Yeah.
So, surrender. How did that come into your life? How did the awareness of surrender, how did that fit into the whole concept of your storytelling?
That's an amazing question. Thank you, Diva, for the question. I think sometimes certain things flip like a switch when you've had enough. You reach a tipping point where flipping is like your safety net or your lifeboat out of a situation. And I wish that I didn't wait for that to reach that point. But for me, whatever flip that I've spoken about here has been till it has reached that ceiling point where I've enough is enough. Like you've checked the boxes, you've done the stable job, you've done the qualifications, but it still doesn't feel enough. And then that's when that flip thing happens. And now I apply that flip thing to everything. Like anything that I want to channelize into action, anything that will help me take an action, I have used that flip concept. And now I use it rampantly. So it's given me, I think surrender has 2 meanings here. One is I'm someone who tries to control the outcome a lot. I think that's got to do a lot with my conditioning. I try to orchestrate everything, keep things in control. So I am still in the process of learning how to surrender in that sense, surrender to the process, surrender to how things are going to take shape and space after my work. Like if I have put in enough effort and enough preparation, I will surrender to what's going to happen next. That's one surrender. The other thing that you speak about, flip, is reaching a point where enough is enough and then trying to see how I can use it to my advantage. So I think those two things are separate, but then I think they will help you a lot in your journey. And thank you for the lovely question.
Okay. Thank you so much, Urmila, for this lovely session. I genuinely think it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to hear everything from you guys. It was so amazing. One thing that I loved that you said was how you detached yourself from the book immediately after it was like released because you wanted to move on to the next level. And I think that was so powerful.
Yeah.
But like hearing that, like when did you realize that this was the right time to publish like the book? Like when did you realize that it was complete? Like, you know, that's it. Like what, like that's it. That's let's put it out. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I struggled with this, and you're right. It's like opening up old wounds, you know. No, that's a lovely question. Thank you, Aisha, so much for that lovely question. Yes, I struggled a lot, honestly, to realize when I would end this book, at what note should I end this book, because I always believe in ending things on a higher note. I want the reader to feel like agency, empowerment. So I knew I needed to end this, on a higher note. But I didn't want to do it at the cost of telling my story and moving away from being authentic. I think for this, I had a bit of structure in mind. So when I started this book, I actually decided how many chapters I wanted it to have. I actually curated the experience, what I mentioned about orchestrating things. So I really put myself in the position of the reader. So everything that you see in the book is a curated experience for the reader. It's not for me. So, but I'm also writing for someone like me. So I kept in mind the attention span, the ease of reading. I think, Rasheed, you mentioned mentioned this.
Yeah. I'll say it. I said at the beginning, I don't read a lot. This was a very easy book to read. I consume a lot of content, but it's not through pages. It's normally audio content. And this was a very, very easy book for me to read. And I really enjoyed it, which is why we're sitting here today. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been.
Yeah. So the choice of fonts, the spacing was meant to make it an easy read when someone's reading it probably after a long day. You know, when you come back from work, you don't want to read a book that is quite challenging or too intense. So I think I had decided the structure that I wanted these many chapters. I wanted it to keep it to this word limit. And I had thought of which phases of my life I would go into and how would that distribute according to the chapters. That is how I roughly had in mind. And then when I reached that, I think I moved on quickly to the next stage. So after 3 months of taking a break from the book and doing something completely different, I got back to the book. I took a break because I've heard this from many writers. Once you write your manuscript, you want to throw it in the rubbish bin. It's a very common thing that you hear. So that's what I said. I took 3 months to write it, 3 months to hate it, and 3 months to get it out in the world. And when I took the 3-month break and came back to it, I knew that it was ripe enough. And I also had my lovely beta readers to help me. So I think I found the best people to be my beta readers. And they also kind of got the story out beautifully because I did play very safely with the story. I had not touched upon certain depths that I'd gone into. And the beta readers called me out and they were like, you know what, there are gaping holes in the plot line and your readers deserve better. And that's how that, I think, made the book really more authentic and it kind of got out the best. So I think for me, deciding quickly that this is it and then putting it out in the public, because feedback is, I think, what helps you decide whether anything is ready or not. Because you can sit in your echo chamber and keep, mulling over it, whether it's over, can I publish, not publish. But when you have feedback, then that gives you kind of a direction or redirection, whether you want to work on it or you want to stop it, stall it accordingly. I hope it answers your question. Thank you. Yes, Aphrodite.
Thank you. Urmila, thank you very much for today. Congratulations for the book. It's an amazing book. I have read it twice. I'm going to read it again, definitely. So further to the previous question, you as a reader of your book, which of the chapters do you enjoy the most?
Oh, God. Oh, my God. It's like someone making you choose their babies, and I don't even have kids. So, oh, my God. Thank you, Aphrodite, for the question and putting me in a spot. But she's a very special person. She is also in the book in chapter 13, if I'm not wrong. And you have to read why she's in the book as well. But what is my favorite chapter? I think the ending chapters. I think probably chapter 13 and then 14, kind of, because I think that is the chapter where it's the climax. It's not the climax of my story, but the climax of agency that I can give as a writer to my reader. So I think if I can influence even one person with that chapter, I think my job is done. But then I think it's reached too many lives now. And I feel the most rewarding one would definitely be the last chapter, because that was my hope. Like, I can go on with my story and I can keep sharing my story, but if it has no impact, it's useless. So I think the last chapter, because that's what is my hope for whoever touches this book, whoever adopts this book and makes it part of their lives.
Mila, what's next for you?
Oh, what's next for me? I think definitely more conversations that stem from this book. Talking on stages and environments and companies and universities and schools, and bringing this conversation to the center stage. I think that's something that I'm working passionately about, because I don't see enough discussions around these things. And I know there is an audience for it. I know there's resonance, and I know there's a need. And I want to be that agent who brings these conversations to these different rooms.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I'm headed.
All right. There's definitely an audience for it, because this episode sold out.
Yes.
This room is full.
Yes.
Everyone's loved your sharing. It's a beautiful book. It made me reflect on many, many things.
Yeah.
And I think anyone who's gotten this far listening to this episode is obviously invested in growth.
Yeah.
In thinking about how they achieve the things that they want to achieve. And I think this book can help you to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the best thing I can say about it.
Yeah.
And as someone who doesn't read, I highly recommend it.
That's a compliment. I'll take it.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Urmila. Thank you for
so
writing the
much for
book.
having
Thank you for sharing today.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.